How's it going, everyone? This is Epic Meat, and welcome to my Aqua Pups Save a Floating Castle review. It's been a minute since I reviewed something that isn't a movie or an old episode from the series, but ever since we got the first image from Moby and everything after that, I've been looking forward to the Aqua Pups sub-series more than Big Truck Pups and the Cat Pack, and pretty much everything else what we gotten so far in Season 9. About 3 weeks ago, the first Aqua Pups episode dropped, and I've watched it about 6 or so times already, so I thought, why not try to do a review of it, since I haven't done one in a while on a sub-series app since last year with the first Rescue Nights episode. So with that said, let's roll right into it. And if you can, comment down below your thoughts regarding the episode and the new characters. So we're going to start off with something I don't normally point out with my reviews, and that is the title card. Of course, we got the cousins Sky and the new pup Coral on it. We'll discuss about them more later in the vid. You got the Aqua Pups logo at the top, the episode title beneath it, and I really like the font for this plus the color choice. I really need to try this combo for my thumbnails. I think it would work well. Also, you got the bubbles and the water ripples along the outline and Puplanus in the bottom left. If you ask me, I think this is one of the better title cards we've gotten in a sub-series in my opinion, at least, and better than the ones from Sea Patrol so far. In my 2 years of doing YouTube, I never thought I'd go that in-depth on something as simple as a title card. Also, this is apparently the 4th time that floating has been in an episode title. They must really love the floating concept so much that they keep bringing it back every so often. At least for this episode it makes sense, because in legend Atlantis was once above the surface before sinking sometime later, and presumably the same happened to Puplanus. Anyway, on to the actual episode. So the pups along with Captain Turbot, no surprise that he's in it because he's been in the majority of the episodes involving the Mer-Pups. As they're sailing to Puplanus, this happens.
Magic mer-moon shining so bright, make my wish come true tonight.
This surprised me the first time I saw this, not only because we got a song, or a lullaby I should say, but Lily Bartleman can sing pretty good. I mean, we've heard her sing a few times in the series, but this one displays her singing voice better than any of the other songs she's been in. While we're on that subject, if Bartleman ends up voicing Sky in the Mighty movie, I would like, if possible, for her to have a musical number of some kind. It may not happen most likely, but she has the voice to do it. After this, Mama and Baby Mer-Pup come by and turn our fabled heroes into Mer-Pups for the first time in nearly 5 years since Season 4. I can't believe it's been that long since that time. Great time. Back things were so much simpler. We then travel down to Puplanus, and as we see, it has gotten a pretty significant expansion since the last time we saw it. There's more building structures, the addition of traffic lanes, and just from a distance, it looks way better and more bright than what was originally introduced. Of course, this is the new animation style, so it's reasonable as to why it looks so much better. I really like how the series expands upon old locations, not only with Puplanus, but with Barkingburg as well. In Mission Paul and Jet to the Rescue, we don't really get much of Barkingburg. It's mostly downtown and the area around the castle, which is where most of the conflicts take place. With Rescue Nights in Season 8, they expanded upon this with more rescues in downtown and even expanding towards the outskirts of Barkingburg. It's nice to see them to continue to expand upon these locations within the series. Back to the app itself, we see the Mer-Pups singing away as per usual, their custom after all. We get our first look at the main antagonist of the sub-series, Moby, alongside his companion Squidley. We'll get to those two later in the vid. Let's first talk about Coral. So Coral in this is voiced by Kaya Oz, and Coral, as it turns out, knows the exact same lullaby as Sky, and she can sing pretty good as well.
Magic mer-moon shining so bright, make my wish come true tonight. When I see your smiling face, I'll know I found that perfect place.
So both Sky and Coral learned this lullaby when they were both baby pups. I wish we could have gotten a backstory for this. I have to admit, their interactions were pretty good up to this point, and then we get to the revelation. Ryder then makes this comment that Sky and Coral look alike, and on the spot, they call each other cousins. I mentioned in one of my other Aqua Pups vids that this cousin revelation was going to be a focus point in this ep, mostly of how they would execute this. And for this instance, I was a bit disappointed with how it was done, like they're not actually related to one another in a blood sense. They're just instantly calling each other cousins due to them looking alike, rather than wonder, how they both know the same lullaby, which they completely ignored after this revelation. Also, I feel like this was done a bit too early. If they would have pushed this later in the episode, and Sky and Coral found out more about each other, then it might have been better than what we ended up getting. Again, it's a bit underwhelming and a disappointment. They certainly could have done this a bit better. A little bit more about Coral herself. She was a land pup before, but on a moonlit evening, she got turned into a mer-pup and decided to stay with the other mer-pups in Puplantis. This is the second issue I have. As implied in the past, if you're a land pup and you get turned into a mer-pup, you can be a mer-pup for that night only under the mer-moon until the sun rises, before you're turned back into a land pup. So how does this make sense for Coral then? Because the mer-moon happens on occasions, but not very often for what it seems. So if she lives with them, then how is she able to stay as a mer-pup for however long she wants? The episode doesn't provide much context as to how this is possible. I figured, maybe the mer-pups gave Coral some form of magic or something that allows her to stay as a mer-pup and live with them. I theorized a few months ago how her seashell tag was the source of how she's able to stay as a mer-pup. A bit more context on this would have been nice. Coral also has the ability to speak mer-pup and translate it for others. It's a bit odd because Captain Turbot in Pups Save Puplantis in Season 4 could also speak and translate mer-pup. Coral's pup pack comes with a bubble blaster, which is what Marshall had in the Mighty Pups subseries, just something to note. Coral can also deploy sticky bubbles, and her vehicle is a seahorse. Other than that, I like Coral's design very much. Her regular voice is alright, but her singing voice is very good. I'll give her that, but despite that, I don't see much from her for me to like her more. Coral's an alright character, but it doesn't mean I like her. I do, but again, I would like to see more of her character in future episodes. Then maybe I'll like her more than I do at the moment. And to be fair, it's only one episode in the sub-series so far, and as always, things can change. Moving away from Coral, let's talk about this scene with Rocky, Zuma, and Moby. First of all, Rocky and Zuma briefly interacted with one another, which is a blessing to see as we rarely see these two have conversations in the series nowadays. Again, it was brief, but it's better than nothing at all. So Rocky and Zuma try to interact a bit with Moby, and this is rare because we don't see the pups interact with the villains much when they get into confrontations. And this is one of the only once-in-a-while deals where they try to get along with the villain. And how they do this is by Zuma trying to teach Moby how to do a paw bump, which Moby is able to do. In turn, unbeknownst to Zuma and Rocky, it turns Moby into a land pup, which is what happens to Coral later on, paw bumping with Sky. Not gonna lie, this is pretty creative. I don't think there's a better way they could have done it. Now, I'm wondering how this will work in future episodes, because if Moby's going to turn back into a land pup again, he's possibly going to need the pups to do so. And considering how he's a threat now to them, I wouldn't see them sticking around with him unless he tries to be friendly to them, or ends up being stealthy and paw bumps one of the pups without them knowing. I think I've wasted enough time already. Let's talk about Moby and his companion Squidley, the two main antagonists of the subseries. Let me point out with Moby, I have never seen as much fan art for a villain in this series than Moby has gotten, and from what I've seen around the web, he seems to be more popular than Coral is, and I'm one of those people that thinks Moby is better. Moby is a Portuguese water dog who doesn't like singing or dancing with the Mer-Pups, and he yearns for life on 4 legs, which he gets in the first step off the bat. Now I'm going to make a bold claim here. I think Moby has the potential to be one of the best villains in the series. Here's my reason for this. Moby, simply put it, is not like other villains, which makes him unique. He's not like Sid Swashbuckle and the Bird Lady, who steals things to make a fine addition to their collections. He's not like the Humdingers, who act this way to achieve personal glory for themselves, and not like Arby and Dwayne, who are considered antagonists, but they are really just following orders from their superiors, and they do have a bit of a soft side to them. Moby is in a league of his own, and a misunderstood character, a relatable one at that, as he doesn't like some of the Mer-Pups' rituals of singing, loud noises, and dancing. He can relate to people who have crowded households or people that just don't like singing and dancing in general. On top of this, he's not really a bad villain in evil terms. Yes, he wants his way, and he's a bit selfish, but Moby is someone that wants to get away from all this, yet as implied, he misses Puplantis. So he does care for his home, but he doesn't like the rituals the Mer-Pups do and wants them to go away. Which, all the while, his plan ends up making more sense in the end. taking the one place the Mer-Pups hold so dearly to them and taking it for himself, far away so the Mer-Pups won't have to annoy him any further, which ends up failing, and as a result, he gets turned back into a Mer-Pup towards the end. He then says it isn't fair, which I honestly agree with, because not only did you punish him, but now he is most likely forced to head back down to Puplanus and endure Mer-Pup customs that he dislikes being a part of. So much so that he builds his headphones, or as I like to call them, shell phones. And the fact that he's an inventor as well provides a boost to his character, which in turn he builds his Moby-mobile, which is a squid, as well as his pup tag being a squid. He also takes the time to build tentacle arms, which, when I saw this for the first time, I could only think of one other character. Doc Ock from Spider-Man, of course. Did anyone else think of that, or is it just me? In short, I really like Moby. Going forward, he has potential, but will the series keep the consistency up with him? If possible, I would like to see Moby get redeemed at some point in the future like Sweetie did. Again, he's misunderstood, so if he gets some sense put into him for what he's doing is wrong, and he's putting his home in danger. Let's move over to Squidley, Moby's companion, and the only character Moby can relate to, which is kind of sad because your friend is a squid, and there's no one of your own species that you can relate to. McSquidley, like Moby, hates the Mer-Pups singing, but for whatever reason likes dancing, contrast to Moby. Throughout the ep, he's mostly there to be there. He doesn't really do much, but I do like the fact how every once in a while he claps when Moby thinks of something brilliant. So he's providing that much needed motivation for Moby like an evil minion. I wish he had more of a use, like how Busby was to Sweetie for controlling stuff around the castle and being a comfort companion. The latter McSquidley has gotten down already. The last thing I'm going to go over in this review is the vehicles and attires for the subseries. First, let's start with the Whale Patroller, which we find out in this episode is actually a transformed version of the Paw Patroller, which is nice. And I do like the deployment sequence, plus how when they exit out of the Whale Patroller, it feels like they're coming out of a portal in a way. But despite all that, did we really need this vehicle? Because I get it's for the theme of the sub-series and for merch purposes, but we already have the Sea Patroller, the Sea Patrol HQ, and the Sub Patroller. Even with this being a different sub-series, you could still utilize these aspects in some way. But again, we know the reason why these aren't in it. Also, minor note for this shot, but I don't think this is how physics work, unless Ryder found some bending material or something. I'm not going to bash this because it's Paw Patrol logic, nothing really makes sense here, and it's a preschool show, so we really can't blame it, but I did find this a bit humorous though. Anyway, on to the attires. Once again, I think the sub-series did a good job with these. They always do. One thing that I wish they would have included that would have made these stand out more is having their respective colors in place of the green and blue glow-in-the-dark aspects on their helmets and suits. I get it's for distincting the males from females, but I just think they would look better if they had their respective colors on them. And finally, the vehicles. Themselves, again, they did a nice job with these, keeping close to the theme of the sub-series. In this, we finally find out what Zuma, Rocky, and Coral's vehicles are, with Rocky being a swordfish, Zuma's being a lobster, and Coral's, like I said earlier, being a seahorse. However, this episode really limited the full functions of what the vehicles can do, because we only got to see Rocky, Sky, and Coral use their vehicles' abilities, in which Coral can transform into a bike. Not only that, but Coral was the only pup to use her pup pack in the episode. I get the whole point of the sub-series is to show off the vehicles, which they do, but also you gotta show off the functions and equipment of these vehicles. Just moving stuff around, which most of this episode isn't doing much. Big Truck Pups in its intro episode did this better. It showed off all the pups' vehicles and what functions they each had. Hopefully the next episode, Aqua Pups Save a Mer Race, will show off more of what the vehicles are really capable of doing, plus more pup pack usage. Also, isn't it weird that this episode is airing on Christmas Day? It's not even a Christmas episode, plus the previous two Christmas episodes never premiered on Christmas Day. This scheduling is something else. Overall, this episode was alright. I did like Coral and Moby, the new vehicles and attires, Puplanus and the Mer-Pups returning, as well as more sea-based rescues. However, there were some things in this app that they could have done better, like Coral and Sky's cousin revelation, more usage from the vehicles and pup packs, and continuity and lore points. So tell me down below what your thoughts are of the first Aqua Pups app and your opinions on Moby and Coral. With that said, thank you all for watching, and I will see you all again next time.